Hey guys, welcome back. In this video we're going to continue with where we left off, right? So we already have two videos out, so if you haven't checked the previous two videos, I really recommend that you check them before you actually start with this one. In this one, we're essentially going to cover how we're going to upload our data to Cloud Firestore and storage, and also to retrieve that data, right? So yeah, that's basically what we'll be doing in here. So yeah, I hope you like this video. We are already there, so we now can log in and register. The next one is actually uploading papers, right? So remember, these are just mock-ups, so we need to actually upload the papers to the Firebase. So we need to upload to Firebase, right, into the storage, and then the details of that paper will be saved into this Firestore database. So add new paper. So these are the details we need for you to be able to upload the paper. So into the service folder, let's create a file called papers.js. So this paper.js file will deal with everything that has to do with uh, these papers, like uploading, downloading, saving, filtering, and everything like that. So I think we should start with the basic one, which is not really the basic, but then the most important one, which is the uploading one, right? So we need to be able to upload so we can see what's going on in here. So let's go to profile here. So wait, so we need to be able to upload. So the first function called constant add paper, and it's gonna take two things. This is the paper that we need to upload, like all the details, and then this is the file, the PDF. And so uh when you upload on Firebase, the file you upload, we want to attach your user ID, right? So we can be able to know the files that are associated with you, right? So so in here, I also need the ID. User ID is going to be current user.id. Where is the ID? Is the user ID. So when you upload, we wanna attach your user ID to this paper before we upload, so we can be able to know the files that you have uploaded. So now we can grab the user ID here from get user, right? And also, before we save this paper here, so this paper we're gonna add your user ID, so we can be able to know the files that you have uploaded. And we also want to attach the file URL. So what we need to do is we need to upload this file to Firebase, and then get the file URL from the Firebase, right? So once it gets uploaded on Firebase, they're gonna give us a URL. So we're gonna take that URL and attach it on this paper before it gets uploaded, right? So what we need to do now, actually, before we implement this add paper function, we need to have a new function here called upload paper, and then this will take in this file, here. So what do we need, in order to be able to upload something on Firebase? So I'm gonna use the try catch here. So we need the constant storage, so we need the storage reference. We're gonna say get storage. Oh, it doesn't. So let's import the get storage here. Get storage from Firebase storage. So the get storage, we also need to create a reference on the storage, right? So we need to create a reference that points to our storage, right? So let's say it's a paper or a file reference. File reference is a function called ref from the Firebase storage. So it takes in the Firebase, the storage, this one we just created here. So we're just gonna pass in the storage here, and secondly it takes in the URL. So you point where this file you want to save is going to stay. So we're gonna say it's going to stay in a folder called papers. Papers is gonna be a folder, and then in this papers folder we are going to save this file. And remember the file has a file name, so we're just gonna simply say .file name. So we are saying on this reference, or on this file reference, we are pointing to the storage and say inside this papers folder we are going to save a file, and then what's the name's file is going to be file.name. So once you upload the paper, the paper obviously on your machine has a name, so we're just simply going to use that file name. So now that we have pointed, or now that we have told Firebase where we're going to save this file, we now need to save the file, right? Exactly where we pointed. So we're gonna say there's a function called upload bits. So this upload bits, we're going to say this is the reference. The storage reference is this one. So here's the storage reference. So it needs the storage reference, which is the file ref, and secondly it needs the data. So the data is the file that you want to upload, which is this file here. And then once it's done, okay, so now we have an error here. We can do this. So once it's done uploading, we can now get the URL from Firebase, right, where this file is saved. So we can be able to use that URL when we save this paper. Here we're going to simply say constant URL and await. There's a function again called get download URL, and then it takes in the storage reference, which is the file ref. So once we have this URL, we know we can return it because we're gonna use it in this function here. And then if not, we're just simply going to return null. We can also console out this, so in case we get error, so we can see what's the problem. Okay, so now we are done with everything to do with uploading file. So before we save the paper to Firebase, we need to actually upload the file first, so we can get that URL from here. Once we have that URL, we attach it to the paper and then save it to the Firebase. So we know always our paper will always have a file URL on it, so that we can be able to download it, and obviously the user ID, so we can know who uploaded that file. How? That's a lot of talking. So now we can upload the file, and then we know the upload paper returns what? It returns a string, right? It's either gonna return the download URL or null. So let me say URL or file URL is going to be a string. So upload paper is going to take the file, and then if the file URL is null, so we know that it has failed. So if it fails to upload the paper, we cannot continue with this. So we're gonna throw an exception here, or throw new error, say failed to upload your file, try again. So this is what would happen if we fail to upload the file. If we don't fail, so we need to do this constant let's say new paper. Whatever that's in the paper, we're gonna have the user ID on top of whatever that's in here, and we're also gonna attach a new thing. We're gonna attach another property for the file URL. So now we can go ahead and save this new paper into our Firebase. So in order to do that, in order to save this paper, we're going to use another function. So this Firebase offers us a lot. So we're gonna say response await. So there's a function called add_doc from Firestore here from Firestore, and then it takes a reference. So this reference basically points to the collection. So you remember that everything in the Firestore is collections, right? So let's create a reference for our collection. So we're gonna say papers ref. So this is a reference that points to our database or our collection on actually our collection, not necessarily the database, our collection. So we're creating a reference that we can use to tell the doc to add our new paper to. So this new paper will be added to whatever reference we add here, or the collection name we add here. So in order to do that, I'm just going to create it globally here, so we can be able to use it across many functions. So papers ref is going to need a function called collection. So this collection takes in the Firestore, right? It takes in the Firestore instance, and remember we created in here. So here's it. So it's a DB, and then the name of that collection, we're gonna call our collection papers. So now we can use this papers ref in order to upload our data and to read our data from the Firestore. So at the add_doc takes in that reference, so we can paste it here, and then it takes in that new collection, that new data that you want to upload, which is the new paper. I know this doesn't make sense. It might not make sense because we're just writing code. You cannot really see what it really does. But once we start testing it, you're going to see how everything works. So let me return here. Okay, so we finished. We are done with these two functions which upload our data to Firestore. So right, Firestore and storage. So what we need to do now is actually to use them and see how they actually work. So in this component upload paper, this is where we actually upload our paper. So what I want us to do is actually create a state that's going to store our values. So I want us to create a paper set paper use state, import it. Also it's gonna contain an object. So our object has a couple of values, right? So we have a name, it's this one. So we have a name, an empty string, we have a year, we have subject, we have below subject we have grade. After grade we have type. Also after type we have we also have this for determining whether it's a provincial paper or what, right? So we're just gonna call it province here. So this is how actually our paper looks like. And also I'm going to create a separate use state here for file, for our file, the one that you are going to upload. Use state, then this is null. Obviously we also need functions that handle this. So I'm going to have a function here called handle user input. It gets the object here, and we can get the name dot target the name value the target dot value, and we're simply going to say set paper and do it like this. So by simply doing this, we already know we are handling every value in here, but obviously we need to use this function on our inputs, right? And then to also handle the file, actually let me leave this one out so you can be able to see once we start dealing with it how it actually works, right? So what I need to do now is actually to use this function called handler. So we're gonna use it here. I'm gonna call the name to be name, and on change call this function, and then I'm gonna do it for this is here. And for select, what I want us to do now is actually create a separate to make this select here to be a standalone component. So let's go into our components and create a file called select component constant select noise select return. I'm going to copy everything that's in here, copy, paste it, and I also want to export it because we definitely going to use it. Select, save. I'm going to delete this. Obviously, again, we want this object to be dynamic, so to be able to handle different kinds of options, right? You see here is only going to handle these maths, accounting, physical sciences, even though we have like for grades and memorandum, blah blah blah. So we gotta pass in the options here, and then we also want to handle on change. So whenever the value of this select changes, we're gonna pass a function that's going to handle that for us. So what I need us to do, since we don't have these options, I want us to create a file in here. This file will contain the grades and the values, the memorandum, the values, and the provinces with their values, right? Because this is the name and then also their values here. As you can see, it's empty. Okay, so I'm just simply going to paste it here. You're gonna see it for yourself. So the provinces here, the provinces these are the South African 9 official provinces. So so if a paper comes from Limpopo, you'll have to select Limpopo when you upload it. And then also this, we're gonna use it to be able to filter the data. Maybe you want a question paper that comes specifically from Limpopo, we're going to be able to use these values to filter our data. And then the types, I mean the papers, okay, here's the papers, and then here we have the grades, and then we have the types, right? Yeah, that's it. So now that we have this, obviously also we have a negative value here, -1 for all these values here. So you can see we have -1, -1. So we would assume if we get a negative -1, it means the user did not choose from that particular select, or that from that particular input. So if you get like a -1 for papers, we definitely know that the user did not select anything from our subjects here. So let me hit save and go into select. So we say we have options, right? We have options, so we need to iterate through the options that we pass into this component. We're gonna assume that the options is an array. So do this and return option with this option array would actually be either this, so we know the array contains the value and the name. The objects inside this array, the object inside this array contain a value, property, and a name. So in here we can assume that we're gonna get those values. So we can do option dot name and get the name, and then the value we're simply going to do opt dot value. then obviously it needs a key. The key will be opt dot value, and then obviously we also need the name for this select. So name name for this select would be the name that is being passed as a prop. And also for function on change call the handle change function, save. And basically this is how our select is going to look like. What I want us to do in here, let me return the previous one that I had just copied. So we're going to use it like this: select, import it. So the name, so for this is for what? This is for subjects, right? So we're gonna say the name is equal to subject, and on change, not on change, handle change, we're gonna call the function we defined above here, which is handle user input. I'm gonna pause it with our thingy here, and the options, our options is going to be the subjects. And remember, we have defined the array in here. Who is the subject? Here says choose subject, so we know it's papers. So the array papers. So let me do papers, import it, and close. And then we're gonna do this for let me remove this. So we're gonna do the same for 1, 2, 3 for the other 3 select here. So copy down. This is going to be for grade, and options here we're gonna import the grades array from our app. The other one is gonna be type, and obviously import the types array. So it means I need to remove this and also remove the type. And then the last one is going to be for province, and again import the provinces array. So we can remove this. So if you go into our add new paper, our input should not have changed. So as you can see, our form is still the same. And then also we need to handle the file, right? On change handle file input. So we have a handle file input that we need to define here. Constant paste and get an object here. We can do e.target.files, and actually to get the file that you would have selected, once you open this, the file you select, it's gonna be attached to this files array, and usually it's gonna be on the first index because we only want you to select one file. So it's gonna be on the file index 0. So we can take this value here. Actually, I don't think it matters to do the console out, so let's do file here. We're gonna take it from target and add index 0 from the files array, and then we can simply do that file and pass in our file there. So now what we only left with is actually to upload the information to the database, or to Firestore, right, or Firebase. So constant submit or handle user what submit handle submit, and it's simply going to be a function. And again, we're gonna pass in the event object here so we can prevent the form submission. Let me try to use a try catch here. So what we're going to do is, remember in our papers here, we defined the function called add paper, which takes the paper information, which is like the name of the paper, the provinces, the year, and then the file that is related to this information here. So go back into our upload paper here. We're simply going to say await add paper, which takes in the paper, which is this, and also takes in the file which we already defined. And what I'm simply going to do here is console out the error if it gets here. However, remember we are on profile/new, so we're going to assume, okay, I have an error here. So what we're going to do is, once this paper manages to add our file to Firebase, we're simply going to navigate. Okay, I forgot to actually do this. Constant navigate, and use navigate hook from React router, and then if it succeeds in terms of like uploading our paper, we simply going to navigate back to our profile page. And then, so the last thing, let's copy this function and call it on click button here. On click, call this function. So let's see, on button click we have a function. When you choose a file, we handle it. Okay, let's see, in select, okay, on change, you handle the change things. We have the file, the province, the type handle. Okay, it's okay. Let me do this. So I believe so far everything is in order, so we can simply try to upload our paper to Firebase. And one other thing you can also do is actually like some sort of validation, right? When you're uploading the paper, or even like in here, you can do it in here or in here. You could check for something like file dot size, and check if maybe it exceeds like 5 MB or whatever. So you could do some sort of validation here if you don't want the user to upload like a huge file. But then we're not going to do that. So but then, yeah, you could do some sort of validation, because with this file, you know the file name, you also know the file size. So this allows you to be able to do some validation. You can like tell the user, you know, you want the file to be less than 3 MB. But however, now I just want us to test if this actually uploads to our Firebase, right? So let's test this. But then first, I actually want this. Let me console out the paper and then just return, and return it here. So I just want us to see if we are actually adding the data to our state, right? So if we are not messing up anything. So the paper is gonna be mathematics, maybe paper 1. The year is 20. The year of this paper 2022. Mathematics, grade 11. Type is we could say it's a question paper. Choose, this is from Gauteng, and then we can choose the paper and choose paper 1. Open it up, and then when I hit submit, I'm going to open my console out and clear stuff that I don't want to see. Let me hit submit again. As you can see, we have all the values we need. The subject is math, which is mathematics, province Gauteng. This is a paper, and then the year is 2022. So it means we are able to get all the values from our fields properly. Also, one thing we can do again here, we can simply console out also the file, save, come here, hit submit, and then you can see the second object here shows you everything that you need to know about the file, also the size, the type, the name, and when it was last modified, whatever. So it means we are on the right track, and then we can actually, this means we can actually upload our file. Let me clear this, remove the return, and save. So we're going to assume if it takes us, remember, if it takes us to the profile page, we would assume that our upload has been successful, right? Hit submit. Maybe we should also do some loading stage. So it took us to the profile page, as you can see here. So it means our paper has been uploaded. So if you open Firestore database here, we should be able to see a file, or a, yes, we have a document that has been uploaded. And then also storage, we must have a folder with a file inside, mathematics paper on or something like that. So there we have it. So it means we are on the right track. What I want us to do is, once it takes us to the profile page, we must be able to see all the papers this particular user, this logged in user, has already uploaded, right? Because all this was just a mock-up. So once you go to the profile page, you're going to see all the papers you have previously uploaded, right? So what I'm going to do is go back into our papers file and start with a function called get papers by user, or get users paper, yeah, or get papers by user. So these papers belong to this particular user, and one thing we need to do is grab the name, or I mean the user ID, from the get user. Remember, we have a function called get user in our users file, which returns the information related to the logged in user. So we're simply going to destructure the user ID, get the user ID from this function, and yeah, so we have the user ID here. So we need to get the file from, I mean, we need to get all the files. And remember, every file that we upload, we attach the user ID, so we know how to get those files. So we're going to create a query, right? Simple query. So the query is, so this is the query. To build the query, you need to import it from Firebase. So okay, noise, I want to show you that I imported the query here. So the query is going to be performed on the papers collection, and remember, we have the papers reference there. Also, it takes maybe like a clause where you define which papers it has to return. So we're gonna use a function again from Firestore called where, and say where user ID, matches, wait, it means it did not, where imported, where user ID on this particular collection, where user ID, wait a minute, did I import the where? No, where user ID matches this user ID. So this user ID we know is for the logged in user, and then now we can perform the query, and then we're gonna get the result. So where are we going to perform the query? We're gonna perform it using the function called get docs from Firestore 2 or Firebase. Did it import it? No. Get docs, not get doc, get docs. And then we're simply going to pass in the query that we have just built here. So our simple query, pass it here. And then this one is complaining about the await. So we have the result. Now we can traverse the result and get the data that we need. So what I'm gonna do here, I'm just gonna create an empty array, say data, and then call and make it an empty array. So we need to traverse these results, right? So we're gonna say results that for each result we say if result, so if result dot exists, push the results into our array, which is data, push into our array, make it an object, the ID we're gonna say result, get the ID from the result, and then spread everything from result dot data like this. However, we need to return this data so we can be able to use it in our components. Save this, and obviously we need to export this function, get papers by user. So now it means we can go back into remember, in the profile we don't have any component here that actually displays the component that actually displays the papers in our profile page is this component called papers here. So it means in this component we can simply make use of this function that we have just written out here. So papers have a function called, we can simply use effect here, use effect and make it an empty array, the dependency array, so that we don't actually have to rerun this use effect. Is only going to run on page load. And since we're gonna make use of an asynchronous function, I want us to actually call our function here to get papers by user. Copy this and maybe say fetch papers, make it an async function, and call this function here. I have to import it, and then I'm gonna say constant values, get all the values, which is the papers, and then I want us to make use of a state. So papers set papers use state, import it, and it's an empty array, right? And values, and simply pass set papers, pass the values into our set papers function. So we can simply now call this function called set papers in here like this. So okay, also maybe let me console out the papers. So we have already uploaded one paper, so we must be able to get an array which contains one object, which is true. We have it here. So what we need to do is, instead of actually printing out this data here, which is mock, or yeah, which is a mock data, we actually need to print out the actual data from our Firebase. So what I'm going to do is papers map and say paper, not actually, let me use this one, so I can simply copy this card, paste it here. Why am I having an error? Oh, I don't need this. So paper, no, key is equal to paper.id, and the type, let's look at this. Remember, we have a type, so we can simply do, where was it? It was here. You can simply do paper.type. Also we have the name, which is paper.name, and the grade, we can do paper.grade. Yeah, we're gonna do paper.year, and province, paper.province, and download, we're actually going to leave the download, or we can actually put in the file URL, right? So we're gonna say paper.file URL for the download. Where did I mess it up? Open. Okay, let me remove this one here. Why there's an error here? What did I do? Button. grade paper 1 2. So we need to close this one. We need to close it here. Save. So if I open here, so you can see now we only have one paper because this logged in user has only uploaded this one. And then as you can see here, we have G11 and which is not really the values you want to display, because these are the values that are represented with on our database. So we want to print out grade 11 and print out the actual name of this province. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make a bit of a trick. I'm gonna make a trick here. So remember we have the grades array, right? So the grades array, what I'm gonna do is import the grades array and say find, in this grades array, find a grade dot value which matches the paper dot grade. So remember, the paper.grade is actually a value that's represented on our database, right? So this value would have to match the value of this grade. And once it finds it, we want to print out the name of that particular grade. So then we can close this and remove this one here. So if I save this, I should be able to see the name of the grade, which is grade 11. We can also make use of this hack for the province. Paste this here and go into provinces and say province dot value should be equal to province paper dot province, and then we just simply get the name of it. So holiday, so grade 11 2022 and holiday. So we are on the right track. So let's just try to upload another paper, say physical sciences, maybe paper 1. It was written in 2023. The subject is physical sciences, grade 12. We can assume it's gonna be a memorandum, and the province, which maybe let's say it's Limpopo, and then let's pick a file here. We have a physical science paper here, yes, and upload. So if it takes us to the profile page, we should be able to see 2 papers that have been uploaded by this user. And then there we go. So these are the papers that have been uploaded by this user. However, we need the user, all the users, when they come to this application, they should be able to see all the papers that have been uploaded, right? All the papers that have been uploaded, and then also you can be able to filter them so you can get the paper that you want, right? So what we're going to do is write a function that makes use of this filtering system we have here. So we're going to have a function that will be able to allow us to filter and fetch the data from our Firebase. So this means we need to go back into our papers and write the function which gets papers, right? This will get all the papers that are on Firebase, because all the papers that are available. This one only gets the one for the user, so they can be able to see them, see all the papers they have uploaded, even be able to see the ones that they can delete, right? So now we're just going to have a function here. Obviously I need the export concept get papers. This function will get all the papers that the user has queried. So we're gonna pass in the filters. You're gonna see how we're gonna make use of this. So remember, let me go back into this app here. Remember, if a user doesn't choose any province, so it means the value will be what, -1, because this is the first value in our province. And then if they don't choose anything, it will mean the user did not choose any province. Also the papers, and then also for the grades, right? Let me go back here. How many we are using? The subject, the grade, and also the province. So we're not going to filter using the type. So we're only going to make use of grades, papers, and provinces. So go back into here So these filters, we're gonna assume is something like filters is gonna be a state or an object which contains the value that you are filtering with. For grade, it's gonna be an empty thing. We're gonna also have a province, and also going to have the subject. So this is what we're going to assume our filters looks like something like this. So now we need to write out our function using these filters, right. So let's get started. So we have the obviously it's gonna be an asynchronous function here. It seems like it it imported something. Okay, so we have get papers and asynchronous function. So we're going to make use of, remember how we built a query, so and then we performed it on get dogs, but then this time it won't be a simple one. So we're gonna call it a compound query. So let compound query be query, and it's a function that we have already imported, and say by default this query will get all the papers, right? So we are not using any where clause here, right, or any where function. We're not using the where function. So by default it will mean it's going to get all the files that are on this collection, that are in this collection, right? However, we want to make use of the filters, right? We are going to make use of the filters. So if, remember, this is how our filters looks like, right? We're going to say if filters dot grade is not equals to -1. Remember we said if it's -1, the user must have not chosen that particular field. So if the grade is equal to -1, it means the user never chose a value for the grade. So we're saying if it's not -1, so we assume that the user has selected something. And we also say maybe the filters, let's also do filters. Why my keyboard is not responding? Filters dot grade, we're saying if it exists, right? And then maybe we can also do something like check this and do it like this, so to be on the safe side. So our filters exist and our filters dot grade is not equal to -1. So we need to do what? Build onto our compound query here. So we're going to say compound query, copy it here, paste, is equals to query, and we make use of this compound query here. And then now we can start make use of the word function. So we're gonna say where grade is equals to filters dot grade. So we are saying our filters object here has a grade value, right? Has a value for this grade property. And then if it does have it, we are going to expand our compound query or our query here to include this clause. We are saying if this grade exists, so expand our query and say we're going to filter it using the grade where it actually matches this. So maybe let's say our grade here is G11, right? And province, maybe it's for Limpopo, and subject maybe is for mathematics, right? So let's assume these are the values. So the check here will obviously be true because our grade exists. And then we're going to say expand this query here and use the clause and say where grade is equal to filters.grade, which is 11. So we assume if we selected grade 11 is going to perform a filter where it returns all the grades, all the papers that are in grade 11 or that are grade 11 papers. Yeah. And then also we're gonna do the same if copy down, because we have 3 properties here. So we have grade and province. So now we're going to check for province. Let's say province So if province is not -1, we're going to say where province. So we expand the query again. So we continue expanding the query. But then if it happens that our province is -1 or undefined, it's not actually going to make a filtering system using the province value. So it's just going to skip this part. And then we say if the province value exists, and we're gonna filter using it and say filters dot province. Similarly with subject, so I can do this subject. And then finally what we can do now is we can do constant results await get dogs, and we're just simply going to pass our compound query. And like we did with this one here, after result we did something like this. I'm just going to copy down here, and we need the array here, the empty array, paste it here and return the array. I don't know if this thing works, so let me go back into home. So we are going to run, or we're actually going to sorry, we're actually going to call that function in our component, or our home component. Let me copy this. So I don't like writing a lot. Where is it? Where is the function paper? So what I'm gonna do is copy these lines here and go back into home and paste them here. We need to import the use state. We have fetch papers, but then this time we don't want fetch papers. We're going to use a function called get papers. Go back here, get papers, and import it. Set values, obviously we have the fetch papers. Okay, so now we are okay. However, we also need to build our filtering system, right? Remember here we're not actually doing anything with this. I'm going to copy one. So for province, grade, and subject. So if we go into our upload paper, we already have these selects. We have grade, subject, and province. I'm simply going to remove the type. Go back into our home page, remove everything from select here, all these selects, paste these ones, remove this one, and import the select. We don't have the handle user input, so let me import the arrays. What I'm gonna do is actually have this function here, handle user input, constant, have this function here, this, and let's build our filters. So the filters is actually going to be a use state celled filters, and in the state you're going to say have a province, no, have a province, damn it, have a province, have a subject, and maybe we could also maybe make these values by default -1s, and also we want to have subject, province, and what, and the grade -1. So this is how our filters looks like. Obviously we're going to get errors, some things we haven't imported them yet. Clear the errors. User effect is not defined, import it here, fetch papers. Okay, so when this function, we call this function on our select, is simply going to do this. So we're going to grab the value, the name, actually the name first. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, actually it's okay. Target dot name value, dot target dot value, and save set filters into our filters. do this magic here. So we know we have already handled the filters, right? Each children have in select. What's going on? Each child should check the random method of select. So we are saying key is actually to be value, but I don't remember having the same value for something. So instead of using value, maybe let me make use of name. Yeah, so we no longer have the same problem. Let me save. Yeah, I no longer have the problem. So go back into home. Go back into home. So now we need to see, find all the papers that anyone has already uploaded, right? So fetch papers, and we also filter them here. Okay, wait a minute. Also, let me just do this for now. I want to see if it gets all those two papers that the first user has already uploaded. So these are the papers that the user has already uploaded. And then we have a physical science paper here, which is from Limpopo. And then we also have a paper, a mathematics paper from Gauteng. And yeah, so what we need to do is actually to make use of this. We need to be able to filter this system here. I mean, we need to make use of this filter here. So let me say I select. No, why is it saying physical science paper one? What's this? Oh, this papers has to be an array. Okay, I'm gonna have a problem with names conflicting here. I'm gonna call these papers, I mean values. Values, get papers, set values, and then here we're just simply going to get values. Save, and obviously now we need to import the papers from our app, which is the array. Close everything, save again, and then obviously you can see we get in those papers. Now what I need us to do is actually to filter them, right? Remove this constant. Actually, let me not remove it so we can see when we filter. Now we want to have a function, right? Remember, we have a button here which is filter, right? So once the user clicks the filter, we're going to take the values here, choose subject, choose the grade, and choose the province, or if it's a national paper, right? So handle filtering, and obviously it's not a form submission. We don't need to have that try that prevent default. And then obviously here we're going to have CGE and then print out the error. Obviously we could handle the errors way much better than just consoling them out. However, let's continue writing code. So handling filtering. So once the user clicks the filtering, we're going to call okay, this function get papers, right? So we can pass in the filters here. So once the user clicks this, we simply, oh no, once the user clicks handle filters, we're simply going to call this function called fetch papers, and simply await, and it's an asynchronous function. And obviously you realize now we have an empty array, so we need to be able to figure out what's the problem here. So handle filtering is gonna be called on this click. Where is the button? On this button here, filter on click, call our filtering. So now let's actually deal with this error here. Let's go back into our papers and see what's the problem. So we're saying compound query here, array if exists, return this. Okay, so we're saying filters is not equal to -1 and it exists. Go back in here, we have province filters, we have province, subject and grade, province, subject and grade. Okay, great. And we do this. Okay, let me console out. If we get into subject, wait, this is great. Copy this, paste here for province. Oh no, didn't expect to get these errors. Subject, save. So there's a problem, so there's definitely a problem, because remember, oh, wait a minute. Okay, let me refresh this. So we should be able to get, yeah, this is right, this is okay. We should be able to get the values because we did not filter, right? So once we filter, let me try to use mathematics as a filter and click filter function. So it says we got into subject, which is mathematics. Let me see, do we have mathematics paper here? We do have a mathematics paper, so it should have been able to filter our system, to filter our array and only return paper which is a mathematics paper. So on the subject thing we have a problem. So let me say subject and also say filters dot filters dot subject and see the values of this subject. What is the value? It's mathematics. It shouldn't be mathematics, it should be math. So there's something we are doing wrong. So I'm assigning the name. Okay, wait a minute. So there's a problem here. Where is the subject? You say get the subject name. Into select. No, I changed the wrong thing. This should have been value. I shouldn't have changed the value. I should have changed the key. So our select was returning the value as the name. So we want the value to be the value, and then yeah, I think now it makes sense. I shouldn't have changed this. That's why I was getting mathematics instead of getting math. So if I change this into mathematics and I say filter, you see now it's working, because look at this. It returned an array with only one object, which is a mathematics paper. So I can also choose, this is grade 11. So if I choose grade 12, I shouldn't be able to get any result, because this was for grade 11. So if I say filter, I get an empty array. Remove this and choose, where was this from? This was from Gauteng. If I choose Limpopo, I shouldn't be able to get anything, but if I choose Gauteng, I should be able to get an array. Great, this is working great. So if I remove, I say I don't want the subject, I don't want the grade, I just want everything that comes from Gauteng, and I say filter, I should still be able to get what, the paper that is from Gauteng. Let me go up and check. The other one was from, wait, what am I doing? The other one was from where? The other one is from Limpopo. So if I say show me anything from Limpopo, it should show me a value. It should return an object that contains the value, which is physical sciences. And then if I say grade 10, which is grade 12, it should return an empty array. So everything is working accordingly. So what I need to do now is actually remove this console out. I'll go back to home, remove this, save and go back into our papers and remove this one. So we managed to debug our thing, save. So now what we simply need to do is print out these papers that we are getting. Ooh. Values, map, value. No, let me use this one. Copy this. Oh no, what did I do? Cut, put it here, so I can be able to cut this and paste it in here. And I also want to remove this one. It's no longer important. So value, however, I want us to actually just destructure the things we want. We have a type, we have the name, we have subject, we have subject, we have year, we have ID. We also need the file URL. So we can simply paste our file URL here. Did we? No, we did not. So also want a province, so we're gonna have a province here. The grade, also we need the grade, and then the year, we have it. We have the year, we have this is the name, and then this is the type, and then lastly on this div here we have to use the key, and then our key, we're gonna use the ID. So subject, oh, we don't need the subject. Sorry, we don't want the subject, we want the province. If I save this, hopefully I don't get any errors. Oh, I need the grade. Why am I what am I getting? Internal server error. What did I do now? Didn't change anything. I was just trying to display our data. Let me close this. Oh no. So there's something that I'm doing wrong here. So let me see what's the problem. Okay, papers. Copy this, paste here. Fetch papers. Is this function? What am I doing? Values is this, and I simply try to map over it. Oh my god, what's the problem? There must be a problem that there must be something that I'm doing incorrectly, and I can't really figure it out. Go back here, get papers. I think everything in here is fine because we've seen the results. So the issue must be here, because this doesn't, I don't get that error when I remove it. So there's definitely something wrong. So return it and remove these contents. So I'm removing the contents. Wait, this div is this one, that one. So if I remove this div in here, let me just say h1 hello, I still get the error. Or maybe the issue was here. Okay, let me just say value and do value dot name. Maybe I could get a different thing. Okay, so it seems like there was a problem here. I don't know what it is. I don't even want to look at it. So what I'm simply going to do is return our JSX here. And I don't know why. What's going on? What did I do? So as you can see, I was getting errors. So I'm just simply going to remove these and say value. Value dot type, value dot name, value dot grade, value dot year, value dot province, and finally value dot file URL. Called the for rent ID is not defined. Oh, we don't have the ID. Okay, value dot ID. So let me see. Yes, so there we go. So it's printing out the information we needed. Again, we still have that thing of G12 and G12 or G11. Let's go back into our papers and copy that hack. I'm simply going to copy pp. I believe it was the same styling. P2 p tags. Yes, it's true. Hold it here. We don't have grades, and then we also don't have this, and then it shouldn't be a paper. Should be not be paper. It should be value, because remember, this is the value we are passing here. Save in here, and we have this. So remove all these errors we're getting. So we've been coding, but I believe this is what we have so far, and then it's working correctly. So let's say I want a physical sciences. So physical sciences filter, and then we have our physical science paper. I don't know if we should do some loading state, but I don't think it's necessary. If you say mathematics filter, I should get the mathematics. If I remove this and I don't even choose anything, I should be able to get all these papers. But then remember, this was uploaded by only one user, so this even another user can log in and upload papers. We're still going to see them here. If I click on download, what do we get? We're getting a 404 error. What's the issue? Let's go back here. Each child should have a unique key. Home, it says we should have a unique key, but the value is definitely an ID should be definitely at least should have a key prop. Check the method h1. Where's the h1? If add h1, it's definitely crazy. The issue is talking about here is not in here. I don't know. Route home 1 8h1 home. Where am I rendering h1s? Find h1. It's only these h1s in here. So which keys is it talking about? Damn you. Let me do what could be unique. What could be unique? Or maybe let me also check how I return the values from get papers. Do I do the ID? Yes. Result ID. There we have it. An array which contains this. It's crazy. I'm just going to leave it like this. So the value.id save. No longer complaining about it. Okay. So the problem seems like we don't know how to download. Download. Maybe let me just say true, and also maybe let me do the target to take us into a different page. Okay. Click. And here's the paper that we have uploaded, and then you can download it here and then save it into your machine. So it means you can upload and see all the information that you have uploaded. So but however, we are not yet done. Okay, what I need to do actually is to sign out this user, right? I want this user, actually let me open like a private mode, incognito mode. So if I try to go to the profile page, wait a minute, why does it, okay, here's the paper. So if I try to go to the profile page, I shouldn't be able to go to this page because remember, I'm not a logged in user in this private mode, right? So we also gotta fix this.